And we're live yet again, Wednesday night live dream chat. Hello, everyone. Hello,
Hello.
Alexis.
Hello.
We are really excited to connect with you all tonight. There has been a lot happening energetically with the astrology and just in general. I know so many of you feel it. I've been seeing it like all over my social media and just in my, 3D experience, so many things like kind of all over the place. So yeah, tonight Alexis and I will just have another organic conversation. It will be anchored in the energy right now and how our dream space has been, because it's been so busy like in life and yeah, in the dream space that Alexis and I actually haven't had a chance to share dreams. Like we share little snippets, but there's been so much that we just haven't shared our dreams. And I don't know, Alexis, if you have gotten back into the consistency of writing your dreams, but like I haven't. They're very vivid. They're still like there pretty clearly, almost like I know they're in the archives of my mind, to the point or to they're clear enough where I could just go and grab them if I like really sit and take a moment. They're still fresh, even though it was like a couple days ago or what have you. So but I haven't been able to really, write them down, so to speak.
Yeah, my space has been similar. I mean the last like month, I would say, or like last couple weeks, I've been going through like not like I would say my I just haven't been able to, yeah, like you said, write them down. I sat down
Mhm.
and wrote one of them the other day, but I have like last night's dream and the dream before last on my mind that I really need to sit down and write. But they're vivid in my head, just kind of like waiting to be plucked out.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're going to just have an organic conversation. We're going to share our dreams, what's been going on in our dream space. There's like one interesting point that I finally wrote down because I've been wanting to share it with you, Alexis, and all of you watching. And so I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. So there's something just like an interesting insight that I came across to share about the dream space. And so, before we get into the discussion tonight, I do want to remind all of you and those of you who don't know that there's an open dream forum, a dream bank on my website, and you can drop your dream there. You can check out what our dreams have been like and comment, like them, or just kind of observe and see what the nature is, within other people's dreams. And so that is on my website at uraniauniverse.com. Also, if you would like us to share your dream anonymously on our live chat and interpret the dream and give our perspective and insight on what's coming through for us, you can do that. You can share it on the website in the dream forum. And you can also email your dream to connect@uraniauniverse.com. And we'll be happy to share that and give our thoughts on it. All right, so we have Jace here saying good evening, everyone. Jem says back in the saddle again. Jace mentions dreams have been busy recently. And then there's someone new. You don't have a screen name, but I see you said good evening, everyone. So hello, new person. Hello, Jace. Hello, Jem. Thanks for being
Hello, everybody.
here. And if there's anyone else watching, definitely feel free to say hi in the chat. If you have any questions or just want to share your perspective and comments, definitely feel free to leave that in the chat and we will connect with you. And yeah, just point out what you're saying and what's coming up as we see it arise in the conversation. All right. So, is there anything, Alexis, you want to share really briefly, or just an introduction if you want? I'm totally putting you on the spot. I just want to give you the chance to say anything before I get into the cosmic climate, and then we're going to discuss how the cosmic climate may be influencing our dream space at this time. So, is there anything you want to, put out there before we really get into it?
Yeah, I'd love to. And it just is kind of like a precursor for your explanation of the cosmic climate and what's been going on. I've been kind of sitting with myself and trying to figure out where I am emotionally, mentally, where my dream space is. And I realized that I know you mentioned this before, what in a private conversation about feeling bored. And I feel like the space that I've been in has been kind of almost like a purgatory, like an in-between space where my
Mm-hmm.
my interests have just kind of been like lackluster, and my intuition hasn't been as strong. And that was like the last week and a half, but really highlighted on this weekend. Like I feel like this weekend it was just really, really low. And then as of today, I just feel this like energy buildup of like all of that kind of coming back. Like I'm phasing through that purgatory and back into myself.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. In a private conversation, Alexis and I were speaking about how I was saying the energy is so like extreme, at least for me personally, in the sense of I feel so excited, so happy. I can really pinpoint, like actually think of things that I'm really excited about. And at the same time, there's this feeling of sadness, kind of like almost depressive energy, feeling bored. And it's just also a part of that is I don't know if I would say impatient or impatience, but even more so like I'm so excited about the new things and I feel like I want them now. I want the instantaneous experience manifestation. Like, why is it taking so long? I hate doing this like day-to-day bullshit. Like I just want to be doing this thing or like in the flow and momentum of what feels really good, and the things that we have, coming up for ourselves and what we intend to share and whatnot. And so, yeah, I feel that this, like you mentioned, this past weekend was really powerful and it kind of set the tone for this week and probably what we're going to experience moving forward, especially because I didn't mention this in the notes, Alexis, but now it's coming to mind that Mars is going to retrograde at the end of the year in Leo, and Mars governs the qualities or the topics pertaining to our passions, our desires, what inspires us to act, also being present and in the moment, and just our connection to our instinctive nature and just being able to act and to be responsive and just to really be in that moment of passion and feel into that life force energy. And so it's really interesting that coming into or during the weekend, and then, wow, okay, I'm getting this really intense, like electric-y feeling in my ear.
Ooh.
Okay, I'm gonna have to get my tourmaline because it's intense.
Yeah,
Ooh, speaking of Mars, hold on.
he hears you.
Right? I'm like, it also doesn't help that my I still am using these
Oh,
earbuds that don't have the tips on them yet because I'm just too lazy to buy them. I mean, it's only like $10 and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna use that on something else, gonna use that on something else, and I need to buy them. So that could be a little bit, but it's not a coincidence that I'm talking about Mars, and I was literally getting ready to talk about Mars aligning with Uranus, which I've been connecting with it as here it comes again. This is so freaking weird. Oh my
so
gosh. It feels like it's uncomfortable. I don't like it.
no.
But I don't know. Do you want to
Same
add
here.
something on that while I like ground myself?
Yeah,
I
I
have on
wonder
copper everything, so
just like
I
the
think
intensity of everything kind of just coming in like full
yeah.
blast.
I think I'm generating something because I have like this copper ring and it's literally just copper wire that I put on my finger as like a ring. And I was
Mhm.
touching this and I don't know what's going on. So I had to grab this tourmaline, and tourmaline is like amazing. But I'll talk about that here in a bit too. But
I
do
have to
you
get
want to
some.
share anything? We're moving with the energy.
No, I just think it's really interesting. Like I mean, I'm sure everybody at this point
Woo!
knows what else like event wise happened over the weekend, and different celebrities dying, and just it was a weird weekend. Like it really was such an odd weekend, and I felt like it was just spiked down low for me,
Yeah.
where I just couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And what you had mentioned about kind of like um oh my god, I lost it. But what I was going to say is like I noticed that oh yeah, I was so connected on my phone all weekend that I was
Mm,
so disconnected from myself. Like,
yeah.
I know I use my phone too much. I think we all do. We're all kind of addicted to our phone. But this weekend, it was like really, really bad. And with being so connected to my phone, I felt like I was disconnected from reality.
Yeah. Yeah, it
And,
was oh,
and
sorry, go ahead.
now, like, I woke up this morning. So I don't know if something happened over like in the middle of the night or like from yesterday to today, but my feelings are completely different.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna say I'm so happy that my cat is here, and thanks, Jim, for pointing her out because she's purring right now. And I always feel safe when my cat purrs, and I'm like, okay, nothing crazy. Like the vibes are good. Like there's
Yeah, she's
nothing
not running
crazy
out of the room.
happening. Right. She's not like scratching at the door, which she does sometimes when I'm on these chats, but or on video in general. But yeah, no. So let's try and talk about this again. See, and I'm like literally feeling this is so wild. Anyway, so I'm just gonna like vibe and feel through it. I'm gonna pet my cat and hopefully it chills. But yeah, so I'm gonna be really quick with it. But Mars conjoined or aligned with Uranus Monday. But with these alignments, we always feel, or we usually feel the potency and the intensity like leading up to it, like within that, the day before, the day of, the day after type situation. And so we saw some crazy things happen here in the US, like leading up to this alignment. So that happened on Saturday. And yeah, with Mars and Uranus is the planet of like liberation, but it can come in the form of like shock and trauma. Like something can happen where it's just like, it just is sudden, almost like out of the blue, and it can be traumatic, like not necessarily, I mean, I guess traumatic is kind of has a negative connotation, but the point with Uranus is it wants to liberate the system. And when any planet comes into connection with Uranus, it's like it's an ability or a moment where it can release tension, right? And so with Mars just works just so perfectly with that energy because Mars is like literally separation. Like, let's just cut through it. Let's do this. Like in the moment, it's passion, it's fiery. So when those two came together, in Taurus, which is such a grounded earth sign, like that's our place of stability, our worthiness, our resources, our survival. That like that connection just kind of breaks that foundation. Anything that was, a false sense of security and something that wasn't serving us, again, it has been like broken down and liberated so we can create a new foundation. Um, and so really the main theme of that alignment was release intention and sort of like resulting in a breakthrough or liberation. So it doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be scary. If you are not listening, if you're not paying attention, which I've had those experiences, then you get the tower moment. And so for those of you who are
Yes.
familiar with the tarot, that the tower card actually corresponds to Mars energy. And I also will pinpoint Uranus's energy to that card as well. So that's what I was feeling whenever I see Uranus, and definitely Mars and Uranus together. I'm like, oof, that's like really, really intense. So
Well, you have to
um,
think too, it's uncomfortable to shed your skin and release yourself from your old self. So even with that trauma and intensity, like you're meant to kind of come out on the other end, it really it's in your hands, like how you handle the situation at hand. And yeah, so I definitely am feeling that, even though I don't feel like my breakthrough was really intense and that there's fireworks and everything, I do feel that breakthrough, the
yeah.
inspiration coming back, the paying attention more, to being connected with myself, grounding, and just in my space and understanding what is important to me, and how being in touch with my intuition right now is very important, whereas like this weekend was a struggle. I was completely
Mm-hmm.
disconnected. myself. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I probably felt so shitty because I wasn't feeling like I wasn't connected to myself at all.
Yeah.
It is so
And I
cuddly
think we were
and
both,
sad.
oh, I know. She's so sweet right now. She's purring too. Um, what I was going to say too is I think that we are picking up like a little bit of it is ours, and then a little bit I also feel is just the collective energy because there's so
Yes.
much like fear, so much on survival, which rightly so. Excuse me. And so I feel that we are kind of, picking up on that too. So if we're not grounded, we can get swept in that. And then we start looking at our environment and we're like, oh, well, what about this and this thing and this thing? And then you just spiral, or you're on social media and you see this inundation of like, you know, so many things that probably don't even matter. It's like, yeah. So, and it feels, a lot of it does feel disconnected because we're disconnected from the divine energies. And
Yes.
so, and we're disconnected from truth, like
Yes.
you can look at this as like, these realities, are they really real? Like, is this your actual reality? Is this reality that you desire? Right? It's not your truth, right? It's not like, especially what you're moving towards, it's not, that doesn't resonate anymore. And so we're feeling that discord, within ourselves in our environment. So that can feel kind of really icky.
Yeah,
um
especially because like think about when you were growing as a child and how painful growing pains were. Like you feeling your bones grow was extremely painful. And I feel like emotionally and mentally and spiritually that occurs too. It's just
yeah.
it's just uncomfortable.
Yeah. And so like as we're talking about this breakthrough and how we felt that intensity, and now we're starting to see, like we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. And so I would invite, everyone watching to pay attention to how your dreams are evolving at this time, and like the nature of the dream space. And I'm going to share a dream here in a little bit that has been a recurring theme for me for years. Like even when I didn't pay attention to dreams, this was just something that came up every so often. And I had it again, like continuously. It was like one of those experiences where you have a dream, you wake up, like you go back to sleep, you're back in the dream. I want to say that happened like 3 times, definitely 2 times, but I have a feeling there's like a third time, at least if there was like a sequence of dreams. And so, but it was different this time. And I was like, I woke up like, whoa. And it really inspired, this conversation. And you and I have been talking about how we've been having weird dreams lately, but we haven't really had the time or energy to share. So it
Yeah.
really just gave this a really beautiful opportunity to share it with you, with, all of you. So looking at the chat, let's see. Okay, so this is Christopher. Shout out to Christopher. I think Christopher from Instagram. I'm pretty sure I know which Christopher that is, but if you're the Christopher in Syracuse, also let me know which one you are. So Christopher says the energy as of late has had the ability to drain you of everything. Yeah, it's been a lot. You're causing all sorts of magnetic fluxes. LOL, don't worry, I do the same. Yeah, I was feeling that. Jay says the tower, like Urania talked about, yeah, talking about Mars and Uranus. And then finally, um, Chris says, I totally request to join your live when I don't look like a potato. I'm all frumpy tonight. No worries. Okay, yeah, it's
A
to Chris from
vibe.
IG. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we got it. We're not, this isn't like Instagram where I can pull you up on the spot anyways. I would have to send you the link and you would have to hop in Zoom and it's a whole thing. So, but if you want to chat with us, we definitely love to have you on. So just message me on Instagram about it if you desire. And we can discuss, what you would like to share and see how we can work that in. Cool. So another thing I want to point out. So I'm just going to go through these things and then we can share our dreams and kind of bounce from there.
Sure.
So I just talked about Mars and Uranus coming into alignment. So I'm just going to briefly touch on Mars and Gemini, which Mars, I think, moved into Gemini today. If not today, maybe it could be Saturday, Friday or Saturday. But nonetheless, Mars is moving into Gemini this week. and we're probably already feeling this transition. And when we think about Gemini's, it's kind of all over the place, a lot of mental stimulation, a lot of like with Mars and Gemini, with that fiery, active, passionate essence of Mars. When you add that with Gemini, you get racing thoughts, you get an unsettled mind, you get restless, just like your conscious mind is like in full, like, let's do this. Like, just the energy is going to pick up within our mind space, within our state of consciousness. Also, when I think about Gemini, there is this element of energy exchange. And so we also want to just take into awareness when we're connecting with others. I feel that, if you're intuitively or telepathically connected with people, that might pick up even more depending on, what's happening in your birth chart. And like you and I, Alexis, Gemini rules one of the eighth house, which the eighth house you could point to like the psyche, like the conscious mind there. And it's one of those like what we would call mystical houses. And so it definitely deals with the consciousness. And so you and I will probably be having a lot of conversations, more
I'm
so
sure.
telepathically than we have before. And then one thing I was thinking about too, the duality, the extremes, because with Gemini, there is that element of duality. So we might be experiencing that for some time, like for the next like month and a half to 2 months. And then I also want to point out Capricorn full moon, which is on Sunday. This is an
Ooh.
interesting full moon. Yeah, this one is, I feel like a part of this full moon experience will kind of pick up some things from the previous full moon, which was also in Capricorn. So we're getting 2 full moons back to back in Capricorn. That one was the day of summer solstice. So it was June 21st. And I feel like this one is going to kind of bring in some themes from that moon and probably either bring it to completion, or you might get a full understanding of what you needed at between that time and now. But then also there are themes with this moon of protection, of security, survival, and boundaries. And with the sun and Cancer making a creative connection to Neptune retrograde, which is in Pisces, this might bring forth an active dream space, like a really, like, especially like the stereotypical full moon experiences, like when you're leading up to that full moon, like you can't sleep, or like when you sleep, you're having lucid dreams, and just like it's really turned up. Like there might be, an experience of that. And you also might receive, some guidance within these dreams. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm going to stop there with the current cosmic climate, but because there is a little bit more, but I think that's good for now, because that's already a lot that we're working with. And so, yes. So how's your dream space been, Alexis?
My dream space has been vivid and chaotic. Um, I almost feel like metaphorically, when I'm in my dream, there's like hands pulling me in so many different directions right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that a lot of my day to day is actually coming up in my dreams, where it doesn't usually, like, I have my day to day aspects come up in my dreams, but normally it's a little more um, enigmatic, a little more of a
Yeah.
mystery.
Mm-hmm.
But where I'm having more like dream about work, or dreams about conversations, similar conversations I've had with people, events in my life happening. I don't want to say it's surface level, but there is more surface level elements to it,
Yeah.
which I find interesting, but definitely chaotic, very chaotic energy.
Do you want to share? Are you ready to share a dream or anything that you're
Sure.
prepared to share now? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm stuck between two, but I think I'm going to share the one that I had last night because I didn't tell you about it. Because
Okay.
the one I told you, the one I had the night before, I told you. So I guess
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you the one I didn't tell you.
Okay. We can probably do two, but we'll see. Like, start with this one, and then we'll
Yeah, we'll
circle
see
back
where we're
around.
at.
Yeah.
So last night I had a very interesting lucid dream. I had woken up late for work in my dream, And now normally I get to work at 11. I think I got to work at 7 p.m. Um, I don't know what I did. I was just running so behind and I was working on certain things at home and I just ran out of time. Like time just kind of flew by without me acknowledging it and I was late, but I still went to work. And I got there around 7. And as soon as I walked in, even though the whole building was essentially closed, like all the businesses were closed, I had a customer. So I was behind the counter, and this customer brought in two photographs to get framed. The one photograph was of her son, and she wanted like a Santa hat incorporated into it and little cards and stuff. And the other one was of her daughter, and it had other stuff in it, but it was more so focused on this like Christmas one. And we picked out stuff. I picked out a frame. Everything was like coming to a nice balance. And all of a sudden, I couldn't get any of the measurements for the piece. So the paper was down in
Mm-hmm.
front of me and I was measuring out and I was trying to like my brain and my what I was doing was like colliding. So I was giving myself information, but the information wasn't being put down. And I kept getting really frustrated. And what I would put down for like the measurements would kind of change language. And I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know what the
That's
language
cool.
was. So I was like, I told this woman, I said, look, I'm sorry. I'm having difficulty figuring out the measurements right now. She was like, that's okay, that's okay. Now, mind you, behind her in the corner is her son. He's very tall and lanky, and he's wearing a baby blue jester costume, and he's hunched over with his head down the entire time. So I try again and I try again, and I cannot get the numbers down. Like when I
Yeah.
measure the piece, my memory of it disappears. So not only am I dealing with what I put down was a different language, now I'm also just completely forgetting the information. So I'm like, look, I'm sorry. I don't know what's happening. I'm trying to get the measurements. She said, that's okay. That's okay. And then at one point, this random dude pops his head in and now this is gonna be this whole dream might be a trigger warning. I should have said this from the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
but the most random thing happened. This guy comes in, he just his head pops out and he's like, I bet you girls want to be pissed on. And then he disappeared. Yes.
What?
I like no idea what that was about. I was just like we both kind of just looked at him in the area that he was and he disappeared and we looked at each other and we were like, but then I got back to doing like my measurements and I still couldn't get them. So I said, look, hon, I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. I'll call you tomorrow with the measurements. I cannot figure it out. She said, that's okay. That's okay. Call me tomorrow. I'll give you the deposit tomorrow. I said, okay, thank you so much for understanding. And she leaves. But her son doesn't leave. Now he's very, very tall, very, very skinny, like dark brown hair and just this like I don't know, very intense look in his face. He gets up and he shoots himself in the head. After
Oh
his mom
my
leaves, he
gosh.
doesn't go with her. So then there's the body on the floor,
What?
the blood all over, and I'm like,
Oh my
what is
gosh.
I'm like, what is happening right now? Just completely blown away at what's going on. So I go back to trying to figure things out. I'm starting to get a little stressed because I know my boss is going to come in soon because it's been like, I don't know, 12 hours or 15 hours and it's time for her to come in. And I look up and in the hallway, the ghost of this guy is like sucking his own dick wrapped around a
Wait,
curtain. The
what?
gut like and it's go like you can see
What
through.
the hell is
I
happening here?
know. I don't know what the hell
This is like Sex and Dreams part 3 over here. I'm gonna have to share. I have to share something with you too.
but
Now
like
that I think about it.
up in the corner in the hallway there's a floating curtain rod and the guy is curled over it and he's kind of like spinning in a circle
Where were
like
you?
I was at work.
No, I know, but I'm like, what plane? Like,
So you know that
I feel
the
like,
snake
yeah,
eating its own tail? That's kind of what
yeah.
it was like embodying. where he was just like
Yeah.
spitting and he was sucking his own dick. And I was like, what is happening? So my boss comes in finally. I keep looking up at him like, what the fuck is going on? And she doesn't notice anything. She doesn't notice the blood, the body, and at this point it coagulated. So she's stepping in it, and you can kind of like hear the squishing of the blood under
Oh
her
my,
shoes. And she comes over and she's like, "Do we have any customers?" Da 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 da. And I'm
like
like,
no big deal. Like she
like
didn't
nothing, like nothing
realize.
was happening. Yes. And she's like, do we have any customers? I'm like, yeah, we had this customer. She had this, and she wanted to use this frame, but I couldn't figure out the measurements. So I really need your help. And she was looking at me and she was looking at the measurements. And then she looked at the frame and she was like, well, I need that frame for another order. So we can't use that frame. So you have to call her back so she can come and pick out a
Mhm.
new framing order. So I'm like, I'm sitting there. I'm like, all right, I'll give her a call, I guess. She comes back and she's a mess. She's bawling her eyes out the entire time.
Oh
Nobody
no.
moved her like kid, like her grown adult son still laying on the floor. Nobody moved him, but she is standing in his blood and picking out a new frame order, like crying and telling me about him. But and then I look up and I look at him and he's still spinning in a circle on that rod, sucking his
Wait,
own.
so the sun was the one that was spinning on the circle
Yes,
too,
his
right?
ghost.
Okay. Okay.
And that was it. I woke up. I was like really
And
uncomfortable
now,
because like I'm watching this his ghost do this up in the like in the corner in the hallway, and she's standing here crying like trying to pick a framing order out, and I'm like, what is happening? What is going on? So that was my dream last night. And I was just like, I was lucid and I was just experiencing it. I wasn't changing, like I couldn't
yeah, I
figure
don't know
out
if
the
yeah,
logic.
that would be one, especially knowing the way you approach your dream space. That would definitely be one of those where you're just like, okay, where's this going? Like, I need to
I
see how this
literally was
ends.
in my dream, like, what is my brain doing? Like, where is this? What is the storyline? Because I don't get it.
I'm thinking, like, what came to mind was, well, initially I was like, what alternate reality are you in? Because it's like, it's interesting because there is some nature of your actual work, but then the events that take place are, excuse me, are just so bizarre. And then even more so, it's like the other people in the dream are just existing like it's nothing. Like it's not, nothing's odd, nothing is repulsive or, it's really, there's so many, actually, there's a few, things that I could, it's a few ways I can interpret it as. And like one of the things is just like, you being more resilient to your environment or, you know,
Desensitized.
yeah, almost like desensitized to it, to certain things, which I mean, I could totally relate to that. I feel just with the nature of the world, I like we are a bit desensitized. The fact that we can just live
Oh, yeah.
life when like so many crazy, like fucked up things are happening, that is absolutely like we're definitely desensitized to what is okay and what's not okay.
Yeah.
And then there's also another element of like, damn, where now I'm forgetting. Now I
I
kind of
just want
lost
to
it.
say real quick too
Yeah.
that the guy doing that act, there wasn't anything inherently sexual about it. The imagery was sexual,
Yeah, but the
but
feeling wasn't
the
there.
feeling wasn't. It was very like I said, it was very like the snake eating its own tail.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean,
It's just I think it has a lot to do with the desensitization,
yeah.
the in immense amount, and trying to navigate through it. Um, like I think something that I have an issue with personally is not understanding certain takes that people have with reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way that it can be very harmful to other people and they don't really care. And me literally not relating because I
Oh
care a
yeah.
lot about people.
Yeah.
And it's just again that desensitization of just like
Yeah.
it was just so bizarre. Like I literally was like sitting in my dream, like leaning on this freaking table, like This
Right.
is a
It's like,
circus.
how can I
I'm
work
going
in
mad.
this environment? Yeah. Like it makes you just want to scream to the top of your lungs. Does anyone like see like what the fuck?
Yes.
Like wake up. It
Yes.
almost like it makes me think of like the
Exactly.
sleepwalking, you know, where we're yeah.
The
What is
wake
it?
up.
Eyes wide
That's
shut.
exactly
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. It's just like everyone, do you not see this? Like the shit show that's happening here? Like it's bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also feel like maybe the blood too is kind of like a rubber. Like I'm in my luteal phase, and I'm probably getting my period in like a week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling like maybe it's kind of like a
Some
pulling in
sort of
that.
release. Yeah,
Yeah,
pulling.
that
It's
that
like a little bit
idea.
of everything, which is like what I feel our dreams have been, but like turned up. Like everything feels kind of turned up.
Yeah. I mean, that
Um,
definitely is I mean, I've been talking to you about my dreams for months now, and that is just
yeah, I haven't.
so
Yeah,
just
it's so
outside
bizarre.
of my norm. Like I know I have crazy weird dreams and like they're very intense and I go through different things, but this was just so out of the ballpark for me. Like I woke up and I was like, what the hell just fucking happened? Excuse my language.
Yeah. No, and I feel too. It's like, uh, wow, I just like lost it right there. What is going on tonight? I'm sorry, friends. This is how sometimes our conversations, Alexis and I, it goes this way where I think it's our Aquarius that everything's coming through so fast. We're
Yes.
in the energy. And it's like, I feel that we already have the conversation before it leaves like, before it's like made into logical
Yes.
sense. So it's there and then we just go on with the conversation, talk about something else without actually like saying words sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So I apologize because that doesn't really translate, well on the
We're doing our
internet.
best. This is what you
Right.
came for.
Right. Exactly. But no, it's really, yeah, that was really interesting. And my dream space has been also all over the place. And I feel like it is kind of like that experience where you have like supposedly your luteal phase, although I wasn't these dreams that I will share that I have been having because I just entered the luteal phase. So basically the luteal phase when it comes to dreams I've heard is like you get like this big purge of dreams where they're just like a lot coming up and sometimes they don't even make any sense. So that's been the dream space over the past like 2 weeks or even longer than that. And last week, Alexis, you and I did the chat on sex and dreams with Mary,
Mm-hmm.
and literally that, and I didn't tell you about this. I don't know if I was gonna wait or was it that night? Or maybe it wasn't. It was like a couple nights after. But I was having like a weird dream space. I was like in the in between a lot. Like it was
Okay.
so weird. It was almost like this. Here comes the electric stuff. It was almost like I was having the false awakenings where I thought I was awake, because there were moments where I would wake up, but I feel like I'm in the in between, but I would wake up and I heard like a child running through the hallway, like, because there's a long hallway from the bedrooms to, or not a long hallway, but like a long, narrow hallway, whatever,
Yeah.
from the bedrooms to the living room and the kitchen. And so and it's hardwood floor. So I heard like a child running, but like younger than Sidori, and she's next to me in the bed. So I know she's asleep. So they had to been like maybe like two. And that
Yeah.
was freaky. And then I also in the in between space, I had like, I thought Wednesday was jumping on the bed, but she wasn't in the room because it was like that, like me waking up and I thought that she had jumped on the bed and I thought she was there. Kind of like that then took me into an actual dream. So I was in the in between. And then I had a lucid dream, or I became lucid. And it was like I was laying in my bed or in my bedroom, but there were stairs behind the bed. And like it led from like a bottom floor, like a basement or actually I would say my room was upstairs, and the stairs were like, coming from the main floor. And so this person is walking up the stairs and I heard them singing, and I was like, oh, it's Britney Spears. And I was like, and then that's kind of what triggered the lucid dream. I was like, oh, this is what is Britney doing here? Like, I'm dreaming. And so as she like came up the stairs, I like grabbed her by the throat and pushed her against the wall. And I was like, you're going to be me as a guy, because it came from that, that conversation and that one main clip. So I think this was like the night I posted the clip. And I was like, you're going to be me as a guy. And or I was like, I want to see the masculine version of myself. And it looked just like me. It was really crazy, except it had like long hair but short, like long hair for a guy, but it came here. It was like a hot mess, actually. So like I moved him to like from the stair hallway to like what was perceived to be the kitchen. And I had him up against the counter. And I was like, you look so much better with long hair. Like you will look so handsome with long hair. And then his hair like went long, and it was still me. And then I like looked down to see if he was erect, and he was. And I was about, and this is me. This is the masculine version of me that I'm looking at. And then I was about to like go down on him, and I woke up, which was like, I did it though. I almost like, because I was trying to, I think my conscious mind wanted to, or my unconscious, I was just so delighted by that share that I wanted to experience it myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what is that? So I got so close to creating it. But again, it was that experience of, not like my dream self, my higher self, not letting me, have the quote unquote satisfaction
Mhm.
of experiencing that. So, but I thought that was funny.
That is funny. And I really, real quick, I want to go back. I was thinking, especially that video that you sent me today, I watched half of it so far.
Mm-hmm.
But when you said that you heard the sound of a 2-year-old running down the hallway and the sound of your cat jumping on the bed, it almost made me think like maybe there was a time lapse back to like, if your
Mm-hmm.
house
Yeah,
holds memories, like how long have you been in this house? Has it been since Sidori's been born?
pretty much.
So
She was 2 weeks
maybe
old when
this
we
is
moved in here.
just a lapse in time where it brought you back to that
Mm-hmm.
time period for a moment, and you could
Yeah,
actually hear her running down the hall from when she was 2.
yeah, that would be pretty like that. I like that.
Like
That's an
that's
interesting
immediately
insight.
what came to my head is just like that time lapse, like almost like the
Yeah, because
timeline.
it wasn't scary. I didn't think it was like, a child ghost or anything. It
No.
was just like I probably feel like in the moment I thought it was Sidori. So I don't know.
So
That's an
did
interesting
was
point.
it Britney Spears who you held against the wall?
Well, no, yeah, as I did that, then I turned her into me. Yeah.
Okay, so
The
it was
masculine me.
Britney and then it fused immediately
Yeah, it
to
was almost like
the
instantaneous.
masculine.
Like I like it started to, or when I placed me up against, like when I saw,
Yeah.
because it was like it happened, but you know how things happen and you don't always see it like as
Oh
you're
yeah.
actually seeing it. So it happened, but when I finally laid eyes on it, it was me. And this is an interesting thing too. Um, when I first changed it to me, the eyes were like closed and molded over like clay. Like if you're
Ooh,
making like a clay figure or something or a sculpture,
yeah.
it was like the eyes weren't there. Like the eyes were there, but they weren't like open or real yet. Like it was just like clayed
You were
over.
in the process of creating them.
That's
That's
so
cool.
cool.
That's so
Yeah,
cool.
that is
That's
really
so
cool.
cool. And that's like when you said that, I was thinking like, hey, like becoming more in touch with yourself, not just sexually, but just in general, like understanding different aspects of yourself because we have the masculine and feminine within ourselves. It's intertwined. So
Yeah.
that aspect of kind of like, and then the Gemini duality, like that also came to mind when you were talking about
Yeah.
the
Yes.
duality and how, you know, it just that's crazy. That sounds
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I
Like
was like, whoa, I was excited that I did it, but I was like, wow, that was so weird. It was so weird to see myself. And even in the dream, I was like eager to see what I was gonna like look like as a
yeah.
guy or something. And so but it was, yeah, that feeling was just so, it was all very fast, like
Mhm.
instantaneous, which is interesting, like talking about time and like how time seems really slow here in this reality, but when you start, like when you're out of the body or when you're pure energy, or in other planes of existence, like the times are different, like
Oh,
usually
so
probably
different.
faster. Yeah. So that's a really interesting point.
But it's so I love that aspect of just the idea of tapping into a different timeline and experiencing just that, whether it be a memory of that, of hearing that back then, like a couple years
Mhm.
ago, or just fusing into the timeline and it not being a memory, but actually just the, like a ghost interference of that period. I don't know. It's just cool. It's just, and since you sent me that video, I've been thinking a lot about the time. Like, 'cause time is so interesting.
Oh
Time is
gosh, the
so
way they broke
weird.
it down, I was like,
I
it was like
know.
my soul resonated. It was like singing. It was like, yes, this is like
Yes.
so on point. It felt really good.
Me
Um,
too. It's so interesting. And like, you know, even just talking about the idea of matter and how like most of the space isn't actually matter. It's what they would call like black matter, like like a mystery space, basically, where
yeah.
like we
Oh
don't
my
know what it
gosh.
is, but it makes up a lot of the space. It's so
That was,
interesting.
it was a really good conversation.
I feel like that's where we relate to, is like that
Yeah.
fusion of science and spirituality
Oh
with like
yeah.
Aquarius and Scorpio rising. Like it's just
Yeah.
so
Like
interesting.
the mystery of it, like
Yeah,
the mystery and just the curiosity. And that's like, that's definitely got the Mars, like that passionate energy that that I really feel around us. I think that's so strong right
I
now.
agree.
And I have a feeling it's going to be really strong for people that are, very intuitive, or at least like working to strengthen that ability. Like I feel that this Mars transit in Gemini is going to really open that up, and just like telepathy and all of that is going to be really strong. And because Gemini is really fast energy, and it definitely feels like this, like more of that electrical circuit type energy. And I feel that's going to be really powerful, especially in the dream space, like where there's like, more or less resistance
Hmm.
in that regard. Who would have thought that the dreams that we shared tonight would like have that synchronicity
I know.
of that?
It's
That was really
so
interesting.
it's so interesting. It's so interesting. And like it's funny because we were so busy over the weekend, we really didn't even talk that much. So then they come in on Wednesday and just like that alignment, it's so interesting.
Yeah. So Christopher says, I also have had some dream paralysis with some out of body. I took it took me just outside of the stratosphere enough to show how ridiculous all our quarrels as humans actually are, even though we already realized this. And then he also says I felt triggered by Scorpio rising. So yeah, Christopher is a Scorpio rising too. So yes, yes. The dream
We
space
get a
is
lot of
wild.
Scorpio risings. We
Well,
really
these are the
do.
folks that really want to go deep. Like they want to know. Like we love the mystery. We're not afraid of the darkness. We're not
No.
afraid of the taboo, the shadow. Like it's pretty interesting.
I want to take it back real quick. You said you were talking about how Gemini is going to play a big role, especially in our dream space
Mm-hmm.
and our intuition. I just want to let the collective, whoever's watching this video now or in the replay, that to get in touch with your intuition more. In the video, they talk about this, and I mean, this is just general. I don't want to say general knowledge, but it's something that is very helpful to know, making space to be in your silence, like not being connected to your
That's
phone, movies, nothing, like no TV, no conversations, just allowing yourself to be in your silence and allowing yourself to pick up what is being given to you, the messages being given to you, and really just sitting with yourself. So if you're looking to strengthen your intuition and take advantage, especially of the Gemini energy that's coming through, sit with yourself in silence.
that's gonna be
It's
so important. Yeah.
absolutely, it might feel boring, it might feel weird, but after a while and you start to kind of like ideas start to sprout and different things start to come to your awareness, and all of a sudden you might be dealing with past traumas that have been repressed for years and years and years, or you have knowledge that you might not understand right now but will come to
Yeah.
fruition down the line. It's so important to use that silence to integrate yourself into understanding your intuition,
Mm,
strengthening it.
yeah, no, that's gonna be so essential for this Mars and Gemini energy because oof, it's gonna be a lot. And then the sun's gonna be in Leo as of this coming Monday. So then there's that like more fiery energy, more passion, more like fixed passion. So this is an opportunity for us to really like anchor in whatever we're passionate about, and just that acting off inspiration and connecting that to intuition. And like if you can balance like acting off intuition and inspiration, like just be in flow with that, oh, that is like that's the sweet spot.
The flow
So I
is
yeah.
definitely so important. Like that balance is so important. I mean, I've come to
Yeah.
at this point in my life, I realize that in order to have some kind of peace, you need to work towards balance in every area of your life.
Yeah.
Because being on either side of the extreme is just going to, it's going to lead you kind of blindly. Where finding that
Mhm.
balance and that in between and that open perspective to allow yourself more, I don't know, just more expansion
Mhm.
is really, really important. And I feel like this past week too might have been a lot of resistance towards leaning into intuition.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
only for me, but also maybe for the collective, since we all have been kind of dealing with this low energy, this low, I mean, chaotic, high energy, but low, like personal energy. I feel like there, for me, it almost felt like a resistance towards this upcoming channel of leaning into intuition.
Mhm.
If that makes
Well, yeah,
sense.
especially it definitely makes sense because, we have like due to the nature of just our societal, the energy of the collective, like say like the lower vibration, the 3D, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
Why am I got a lot of burping happening here. There's a lot going on where I'm just like, should I read into this? Should I not? But nonetheless, um, everything's been focused on survival, personal security, protection. When you're in that very deep energy of like this physical reality where it's like hard to tap into your intuition or maybe the possibility of like being in this reality, or you just feel really heavy and boggled down by the density of the fear of scarcity, lack, all of those things. And so it is really hard to connect to your intuition. And we were definitely experiencing that over this past weekend in one way or another. So yeah, this is a beautiful opportunity to allow yourself to like, Alexis was saying, to take those moments of silence, like at least every day for like 10-15 minutes. It could help if maybe it's better if you do it outside in nature, or if you have really extreme racing thoughts, one of the things I always recommend is like staring at a candle flame for like 5 minutes or so, because like you'll just start to like watch the flame, and then you'll have this whole conversation in your head probably about the flame. And then there's like an interesting feeling about just a narrative about a candle flame that
Well, and it's
brings forth
cleansing.
more. Yeah, it's cleansing. It brings forth like inspiration or like ideas. And, just think about what the element of fire represents. And so that's something that's so perfect for Leo season as well too.
Absolutely.
So
I want to say
um
too, I'm sorry.
no, you're good.
I want to say too that one of the practices I really enjoy, that helps with my own personal inner turmoil when I'm going through a lot, is mirror magic. And
Mm,
really like sitting with yourself in front of the mirror, staring into your eyes and working towards accepting yourselves for your all the good and the flaws. I
mm-hmm,
think that's something that took me a really long time to get comfortable with. But when you're alone with yourself in a way where you're reflecting yourself back,
mm.
there's a different energy that goes with it. There's a different, it's a
Ooh,
different thing. Yeah. And I know we've talked about staring into mirror and kind of working that mirror magic in the past, but I really want to bring it up for this, especially Leo.
yeah. Your
We're
self-reflection, your
parents,
ego. It's
but
okay.
it comes
Confidence.
it's practice accepting yourself. You're sitting in front of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
full reflection. You're and you treat it like you're with someone else, and you start to see yourself as not someone else, but you start to treat yourself like you would treat someone else. You start to see the good in yourself less than the bad. You start to be there,
Yeah.
start to really be there and accept yourself for who you are, like you're accepting someone else for themselves. And I just find that, especially with this, the sun going into Leo soon, this is a really good practice to incorporate.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. So you guys have the tools and the resources. We have everything we need, right? And
Yeah,
like those are easy. Like everyone has a mirror somewhere. I mean, stare into your phone camera, maybe. I don't know. But it's something interesting about staring at yourself for a long period of time, even if it's like 5 minutes.
yeah,
Like, how long can you hold your own gaze
yeah.
is something that might be my Leo season practice because I'm really curious about that.
There's definitely an energy shift after you stare into your own eyes for
Yeah.
a while. And if you are feeling uncomfortable with yourself, start to talk to yourself in the mirror like you're talking to someone else.
Yeah.
Like if you feel uncomfortable in your skin, start to verbalize out loud to yourself the things that you do enjoy. And
Yeah.
it really it is so healing, so healing. Because I'm sure all of us, if not all of us, most of us struggle with issues around our own image, our own self, our own personality, and whatnot. This is a good opportunity for you to fuse yourself together and really accept yourself for who you are.
Yeah. Absolutely. Leo season, here we come. So Jace says, I feel the energy is giving us a signal boost for us to get into those frequencies in our dreams, maybe to prepare ourselves for what is coming. Yeah. So we see what as within, so without type energy. So the more you take those moments of silence and, you're present with your environment, with your energy, you will begin to experience that in your dream space, or maybe your dreams will become more vivid and, clear to you, but it definitely reflects.
Yeah, absolutely. The more you pay attention, the more you see.
Yeah. Fire is great for rebirth and reclaiming energy, burning away the old and rising from the ashes. He also says self-love is always a good shadow. Sorry, I just heard the little one screaming. That was weird. Like an animal, because she's
Oh,
outside in the backyard. So that was weird. Um, I
I hope
think
she's
she's
having
outside.
fun.
Yeah, she's into bugs, so she goes out when the sun goes down and
Oh,
like hangs out around the light fixture with her dad. So it's really cute.
oh.
That's their bonding. I'm not like I appreciate bugs, but I don't need to like play with them.
You can
Um
have your distance.
although I have a cicada husk on my altar now that I found yesterday
Ooh.
in the backyard because they've been
Cicadas are
anyways,
very sacred.
tangent. Yeah, cicadas. Oh my gosh. They're making a connection with me right now. Um so Christopher says one thing that works for me is to isolate yourself, close your eyes, listen to your breathing, and try to slow it down, start breathing deeply, listen to each breath, and continue with that. Yeah, like tuning into the breath. That's definitely,
Yeah. If it's
and
difficult for
yeah,
you to do that, and you're a visual thinker, think of like if a human body is kind of cut in half and watch the air go in through your nose, down into your lungs expand, and then back out your mouth. That's
yeah,
something that helped me, the visual of it.
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. If you're a visual person, like if you see like, yeah, like with imagery, that's a
Mhm.
good idea. Yeah, that's one of the things that I do, not the visual, but just like the breathing when I'm having those racing thoughts. Like even if I'm not trying to meditate, but I can already catch myself about to have an anxiety attack or everything's like
Oh yeah.
spiraling, I like connect to the breath and yeah. So, and George says, or no, George did a little magical star emoji, like the little star. I love that. All right, so we are at 10:03 p.m. I kind of want to share. Is your okay? So my second dream, the dream, what I shared before wasn't what I planned on sharing. The dream that I actually shared is like really short, because I didn't write it down and it's just, from memory, from this morning. So I don't know, is yours pretty short? Like, or
It's
even if
pretty
it's
short,
like,
but go
yeah,
ahead.
we can,
Give your
yeah, we
second.
can, yeah, we can like share these really quickly and then because it kind of goes along with the theme of breakthrough for me. So yeah, I guess I'll go. So this second dream, the dream that I originally was going to share, happened this morning, and like I said, it's been always like a recurring dream for so long because it's always me in working in a restaurant, which that's pretty much my professional career, other than what I'm doing here now, like my astrology and stuff. My 3D professional work is, being a waitress, bartender, barista. So many people who work in the restaurant industry, they have what we call, especially servers, we call it server nightmares, where you are working and you're just so busy that you can't keep up with things and like you're in the weeds, right? And it's just like you never can catch up with anything. And so I kind of had that dream this morning, but it was different. Like, first of all, like I said, there were at least two dreams where it was like I woke up and went back into the dream, but I'm pretty sure there was three. So maybe there was a dream in between them and I just went into that dream. But nonetheless, I was going back to the restaurants that I used to work at. And it was literally in the dream. It's like, I'm going back to these restaurants as Urania. Let's see if I can remember. And like, not Portia, but as Urania. So there was that clear transition. I was like really excited to have the conversation, be like, hey, I'm Urania now. That's what you call me. Also, I was like, can I remember, like the menu, how to use the point of sale system? And also, so I know on one occasion I had planned to go waitress and they were like, well, no, you haven't been here in a long time. So you're going to have to host, like be a guest host. And I was like, that's not going to work, because I really want cash right now. And that wasn't the plan. Then the second time, or the second place, I was supposed to be like a food runner, like expoing the food, like getting the plates organized and then taking them to the tables. And I think I started to do that and I kind of took over because the boss, like the manager of the restaurant, was doing it. And then I came in and I like started doing it. But nonetheless, it was so interesting because one, I was who I am, like I was Urania. And also there was this sense of like being out of place and not like it was this sense of like freedom where it's like I'm just here for fun. Like I'm here so everyone can like see me and I can connect and reconnect and like, but I don't like except for the one dream where I was like, well, I kind of want to make some cash. Like I was excited about that. But nonetheless it was so weird and there wasn't that feeling of like I got to catch up, I got to keep up. And I don't know, I've been, thinking about it all day today, but it just felt like free and it felt just like I felt empowered because of like the name change where it's like, oh yeah, I'm
Yeah.
doing this now and this is who I am. And it was because I've like, when I moved from Colorado to New York, which is like where most of my restaurant work was, and also DC, but um, so I moved from Colorado, like in my waking life, right when I became a mom, like at 2 weeks after I had my daughter. And then like a couple months after that, we were in the pandemic. Right. So like that world, that scene, that type of work was done anyways. So it's interesting to have a dream where I'm going back and it's the like recurring dream of being in the busyness of the restaurant. So I don't
Yeah.
know. That was just really interesting. And I felt like there was a breakthrough, like,
Yeah, I was gonna say it was like your own
yeah,
personal rebirth. It's going back to
yeah,
something you know and you're good at and reintroducing yourself as who you really are, which can only make your experience more important, more valuable, and just overall better.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah. So
your
that's
maybe your inner self is like, why don't we go bartend and make some money?
no, I do entertain that thought now because I'm like, I don't really like, I'm so different than what I was because there was such a big transition, like being a mom and just
Oh,
like my priorities and everything, even my awareness. And there's so much that changed since I last worked in restaurants. And so I have talked about that recently. I was like, oh, that'd be kind of cool. Like if I had the time to, and I always make money where whatever restaurant I'm at, like I love talking to people. I meet like really interesting people, even though I'm like an introvert, but I can do that
I'm the same
because
way.
there's an energy exchange. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's really, and that's how I meet people. That's how I like make all my friends in real life. It's
I
like
feel
when
like you're
working at
being guided
restaurants.
by your inner self. Like maybe
Yeah.
not this second, but in the near future, just picking up a day or two to kind of reintroduce yourself back into that peer, like that environment where you feel really comfortable doing what you're good at. I mean,
Yeah.
restaurant work is not for the light of heart.
Whew.
Restaurant work is
I know.
not.
I feel a weird, like I feel like this because I had that relationship where I've stepped in, stepped out, stepped in, and it's like it's always alluring, but then when you're in it, you're just like, I fucking hate like it's a whole thing. But I think a part of that was when I'm thinking about it, because Jace mentioned it could also possibly be reminiscing, which I could feel that, like 2 points that I want to make with that comment. But the first one was I had a reading here in Syracuse on Sunday, and it was in person, and we were like
Ooh,
out in nature and we were connecting, and I miss
ooh.
having those type of readings and engagements in person, and that's what I was doing. Like I haven't really experienced, I have experienced it, like doing little tarot readings at shops and stuff, but like nothing like what I experienced the other day. And so I think that kind of triggered that reminiscing of past lifestyles. And then the other point that I want to make to his comment that you're kind of right on, this morning for my daily tarot reading, I got the Six of Cups, which is about
Mm,
like nostalgia and memories, like fond memories and feelings and stuff. So yeah, I think
yeah.
that,
Well, even like you hearing the footsteps of the 2-year-old in your hallway and kind of feeling
yeah, that's a good
the
point.
story, like it almost is like you are going through another rebirth and have been, and these are things that you can bring with you, where other things you can leave behind.
Right. That's a good point too.
The connection with yourself is so strong, and I find that so admirable. Like I have a strong connection to myself, but I often feel like it can be unplugged. And I don't know if
Yeah.
that makes sense, but like if I'll be really, really in touch with myself, and then I'll just completely be separate.
Yeah.
For, it'll be a short period of time usually, sometimes longer, but like I have admired the way that you are so in tune with yourself since we started talking. And it just like when you
Yeah.
tell me these things, I'm like, oh my God, I can relate, but I also I'm like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's because I always make a point. I try to do every day, like just have a moment, like you're saying, the moment of silence, or just to be in your own space.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. And then also there's so much that, like through journaling, because I've been writing for so long, like journaling and through that reflection point, which I know you do it too. It's like
Mhm.
when you go back, like it's like from the act of writing it, you don't like, it's like you don't really forget it. Like it's in there,
Yeah,
like more cemented than if you didn't write it.
yeah,
And then when you take those moments to go back, then it's like, oh, I remember that. And it's like, yeah, you like fall in love with yourself or you get angsty about something, but you like just like there's a special connection with yourself because no one else gets it the way you get it. And then you can like connect with
exactly.
your past self. Like,
Nobody,
yeah.
it's just like you can be close with so many people, but your experience as yourself is so individual and so complexly different than everyone around you that if you're out of touch with yourself, it can really feel like you're lost.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else
Yeah.
understands
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. Yeah. Cause nobody else, if you don't get you, I mean, whew, like
But and think
good
about
luck.
how many people don't know themselves. I keep thinking back, like every time I think about somebody who's kind of lost in the dark cloud of being burdened by so much of their traumas in their past that they can't clear the way to really get to know themselves for who they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it hurts my heart. But then I actually go through my own, and I'm sure everybody does, but I go through my own aspects where like I'm up and then I'm down, then I'm up and I'm down. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's ever going to be a consistent thing for me personally, but the fact that I get back up is really powerful to think about because there have been many times where I didn't get back up, like
Yeah.
long periods.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I feel like, and I do experience that too. And I feel like we were talking about recently how it's like, ooh, I'm so excited about this. But then sometimes it's like, for me, it's immediately followed by like depressive energy because I'm like, but it's not happening right now. And
yeah.
like I don't.
Or
And
what if
so,
it doesn't happen at all? Or what if
yeah,
something goes wrong? What if it happens and then something happens that takes away
yeah,
from this
that's the
experience? It's like,
spiral.
but at the same time, it's like the path ahead is infinite because there's so many different avenues
Yeah,
that is it even worth like harboring on the possibility of things going south?
yeah, that's a good point.
It's difficult. It's very difficult navigating life for every single one of us. And I just any way we can help each other out. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Jim, you say that you've been having in the weeds nightmares. Do you work in restaurants or do you know about that? I'm just curious. So I just wanted to ask if you're here. So anyways, all right, on to yours.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot that I was even going to tell a second one. So I
Yeah,
actually told you about this one, but I'm going to share it with the group.
yeah.
um, not last night, but the night before, I had a very, very interesting dream. Nothing too crazy happened, but it was based, so it was in a parking lot like it started in a parking lot and I had been walking kind of away from George in the vehicle, which is normal for me because like he'll be doing something at the car and I'll be like halfway where we need to be already. And
Mm-hmm.
I had these three women who had called my name. And I look over and I recognize them from real life. Like they're people that I had previous relationships with in the past who are much older than me. And had a part in my life who and it was a negative, like they had contributed negatively to my life, and they were more like mother figures,
Mm-hmm.
and they called my name, and when I went up to them to kind of be polite and hug them since it's been forever and whatever, um they were very put off. And you know when someone's put off, like that energy right off the bat is off, like just
Yeah.
wrong. Um, and they were just kind of like looking me up and down, like they had a problem with me. So I like was like, all right, well, bye, like, and just moved back on with my time. Met up with George, and we ended up going into a ShopRite. Now the ShopRite was very condensed. And as we were walking through, there were people who were trying to steal from us and take from us to the point where there was actually a loft in the ShopRite where people were throwing down fishing pole lines to kind of try to, like, you know, in cartoons they would do it and catch on someone's wallet and then reel it back up.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like that. And I looked up, I was annoyed, like they tried, they didn't succeed. I was just like, can you just fuck off, please? Like I have no desire to be like messed with. So we're walking around and we're kind of like by like the meats and cheeses, and an old friend of mine was had called my name, and I looked back and I said, oh, hello, like it's been forever, it's so good to see you. And I gave her a hug, and she was very like depressed and down, and like her energy was just so sad, and she was like, I can't get a job anywhere, I can't find anything. And I looked at her and I'm like, well, I'm gonna ask to get a part-time job here at ShopRite. You should too. You should too, and then we can work together. And she kind of just like was dead, like deadpan, like no emotion, just like okay, and like almost like she was pulled back from my dream. And I was like, weird, but okay. So George and I are and like finishing up our shopping trip, and sirens start going off. A what is it called? When you have to be in your house at a certain time.
Curfew?
Curfew. So there were sirens going off for curfew. So everybody was running towards the cash registers to
That's
check out so
crazy.
they can leave. And I remember last minute, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot something. I have to go run. I run to the aisle and I start walking back, and the whole ShopRite changes aesthetic, and I'm in a different place. And like, and it's gradual. So you can, I
Yeah.
watched all of like the bright white turn into like a red brick, and just like it was ended up being a bar that I was at. And my dad was next to me, and George wasn't there. And he was like, let's just go and hang out for a little bit, yada, yada, yada. You like, your mom's having fun, whatever. So we walk over to this corner. My mom's drunk and she's with a bunch of friends that are all on different tables. And I just want to leave. I'm like, Dad, I just want to go. I'm not drinking. I don't want to be a part of this. And my mom's kind of pushing me to talk to her friends who are drunk and really aren't paying attention anyway about like my achievements and stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to talk right now. Like, I don't really want to boast about myself. Nobody's going to retain the information. It's not really
Yeah.
about me. And mom's like, oh, come on, it's margarita night, da da da. And everybody starts cheering when she says it's margarita night. And then the waiters bring out margaritas and malts and whiskey and all this other stuff. And I look at my dad and I'm like, please. So he's like, all right, we'll leave. And my mom was a little upset for a second, but then immediately went back to having fun with her friends and not acknowledging us. So we left, and as we were leaving, we went back to the parking lot that I actually started in with George. But now I'm leaving with my dad, and his truck, like we got to the truck, and I was like, oh, well, I guess they were mad at us for leaving because they stole the step to get up into his truck and the door handle to the passenger side. And that was
Oh,
the
that's
dream.
interesting.
It was so weird. Just
Yeah, it's like,
so chaotic.
yeah, it kind of like with those, like that part, the ending part, and then in the store, like the shop, what is it? The shop, right?
Yeah, it's a grocery
Yeah.
store.
Yeah, so it's like just the curfew, and it's like, oh, it's like kind of like we have to rush to get out of here because like how things are changing, or like it's almost like you're going to get locked in is like what you think, because it's like, oh, I got to hurry up and get out of here. Like when you think about stores closing, it's like, oh, well, they're going to lock the doors. Or like when you said it this time, it was making me think of like some sort of apocalyptic, or
Mhm.
like one of those weird movies where like if you're not in by curfew, like bad things start happening outside, so you want to be locked down in your house. So it gives me this like vibe of like restriction or being locked down, especially because like when you get to the car too, it's like, oh, well, now we can't get out of here. Like, so, and it's like it's almost like you're not in control of like where things are going, or just like what's happening around you. Like you're just like you're existing, but you're not. Yeah, it's like you're kind of responding to everything, but it's not like you're not calling the shots in a sense. Like,
Yeah, it's like everything's happening all at once and
yeah.
I can't find my footing.
Yeah,
And I
except when
actually,
you said you want to get out there, like so that, or get out of there. So that started working. Like you
yeah,
started
exactly.
like
And
guiding that.
I just, as we were talking about, I had memory of it coming back. It actually didn't end right at the truck. We had driven down the road and there was like, we passed this embankment where people were like gathered up and standing, going through full totes of groceries that were abandoned. And as we were going down this road, there was a fork, and then I don't know how to like draw it. It was like a straight road with a kind of fork where you would have to yield coming from that street.
Yeah.
But the people didn't stop going from that street, and the people who were in the lane opposite of ours was weaving into ours. So it was like we had two cars coming out at each other, and then I woke up.
Mm,
Just so weird, very apocalyptic.
yeah.
I
What
feel
are you?
like I was just like tapping into the unconscious collective, because I feel like right now we're kind of in a fragile space where everybody's so stressed about what's going on, and particularly in America, like how the elections are going to go and the
Mhm.
fighting, just like
Yeah.
it's chaos. So I feel like that's a little bit of that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the lockdown, the restriction, like not being able to get out of here. Like what's going to happen again? It's like as we started this conversation, those themes of like the current energy, where especially going into this full moon, where I definitely feel this strong sense of like protection, security, just being very vulnerable. And I feel like the moon is going to kind of amplify what happened over the past 7 days, right? Since like this previous weekend. And then especially with the Mars and Uranus conjunction. So it's like almost like it's reopening that wound. It's like throwing salt in the wound a little bit, just like, and this is all like, I hate to be this, actually, I don't hate to be this person, but I'm going to be this person where it's like, these are all lessons of like our personal power, connecting to truth, being connected to your desires, being present, right? Because, like you said, like we talked about, we can feel collectively desensitized to everything. And for me personally, it's my strong ability for so long, and I didn't realize this until recently, is like disassociating, like getting the fuck out. Like I'm here physically, my
Yeah.
avatar is here, but like I'm gone.
I'm gone.
Like
Absolutely. I mean, you know me. I'm Libra, Sun, Aquarius, Moon. So
right,
I'm
right,
just in the clouds
right.
all the time. It is very easy for me to disappear into my own head
Yeah,
and not be in
yeah.
reality, but we have to be in
We
reality to
have to.
face all
We
the
have to be
things that we're
present.
going
Yeah.
through.
We got to wake up.
Yes.
So wake up in the dream. So I feel really good. I'm glad we discussed the second dreams as they like tie deeper into what's coming up. We didn't get to Venus rising, but that's okay. I'll just note it that Venus is now visible in the evening sky just after the sun sets. And it'll be easier and easier to see her as time progresses. And she is now considered to be an evening star, which means she's in the aspect of herself that is connected to intuition, dreams. What else did I put? Like there's this dreamy essence to her, like the wise woman, the priestess. So when she's her morning star, she's more of that like maiden, adventurous, like warrior. Like you've heard of Venus also being like the goddess of war, like the warrior goddess. That's when she's in her morning star phase. But now she's in the evening star where she is very like intuitive and receptive and very strong within that and the intuition. So I love that she is visible. So we have her there. And I think she's in Leo right now already. So yeah, so that's very strong too. Yeah, she's in Leo already. Um, so yeah, we would love to hear in the comments if you're watching the replay, like how your dream space has been. Thank you for always sharing with us. If you like the video, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Alexis and I have some really exciting news coming, and we're not going to share right now, but stay tuned because we're probably going to share really soon. Um, because that's a part of, I think both of us, we share some of the excitement about what's to come, but then we also are like, okay, we want to do all the things now. And no, we have to take our
We have
time
to
and like,
remember that it takes time.
yeah,
You know, a
yeah.
caterpillar needs to turn into goo to rebuild itself into a butterfly, and that doesn't happen
Right.
overnight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have to create that nice foundation and be present with all the energy. So, do you want to add any last words? I'm gonna also wait. Let me read the comments. Then we'll do last words because I
Okay.
know the comments might trigger more conversation. But let's see if any, because I know now there's some talking amongst the people viewing. Realize so Christopher says, when you realize the population of our Earth is almost 8 billion humans, our single experiences may pale in comparison with the rest of the world. But it may also help others deal with things that they have going on. You never know how your story or experience may resonate with someone else. Because okay, let's see if so that's why I celebrate and encourage this type of discussion that these two amazing women are able to share with everyone. Thanks, Christopher.
Thank
Yes,
you.
yes. It's
We
a
do our
lot.
best.
It's
You know? It
yeah.
is a lot.
That like also points me to okay, so I'm gonna share the video that Alexis and I keep talking about. It was it wasn't necessarily about dreams, but it was about
No,
intuition.
it
And
was
it's
really
just,
good.
it was so good.
It was
And
really
I
good.
was telling Alexis, it's like a reset where if you're feeling this restrictive energy and feeling limited by like everything happening around you, like the quote unquote reality of things, this video helped me at least. And I'm assuming Alexis too, it
Me as
helped us to
well.
feel like more
Significantly.
expanded. And we're just like, oh, yes, we do have the abilities and we're energy. And this is how things are communicating and interacting with each other. And so one of the comments that the woman that was being interviewed made in the doc or in the video, she mentioned she was talking about the holographic universe just really briefly, but she said the main um concept of the holographic universe is that every part of the universe contains the whole. So basically every one of us contains like the whole universe is within us. That being said, we have connection to that divine intelligence and all the things. It's more so like, what are we able to access? And in the video, they talked about how, like, and this is one of the things I believe where um we don't need to access, like, is it beneficial for our purpose? Like sometimes you just don't need to know. Like imagine if you knew everything, that like that would be so
My brain would
boring and you would
explode.
just, yeah, it was just
My
like,
brain would.
no, like, it's the universe is keeping us on a need to know basis, and if it's in alignment, if it's beneficial for our purpose, for our life and what we share with other people, then we'll know.
Exactly.
But yeah, so anyways, what Christopher just said about that really made me think about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a fantastic video. I mean, I highly
It was
recommend
really
it.
good.
I didn't even get fully through it yet, but just the
Yeah.
way they communicate the topic is so, it's just, it's already things that I believe and think about, and just hearing it out loud again, it's just, it resonates so deeply in my soul. And we are all one and yet completely separate and yet one. And the fact that we can tap into each other when we need to, like, even your friend had a dream about her friend, and then she reached out and it turned out her friend was going through something really difficult. Or like, when how many times have we gotten on Instagram at the same exact time in the messaging to reach out to each other at the same time, and just kind of like laughed about it. But like, you think about someone, you reach out and they needed you, or it's just, it's so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all, we're all connected. And we got to come back to that. Okay. So one other thing I'm going to share that I have to share because every single time I forget, it's really quick. I was talking about black tourmaline. What I've noticed ever since I started sleeping with this, my dreams have been very clear and vivid. And I don't know if it's like the stone itself, so I have to like experiment and sleep without it for a little bit. But it's been a few weeks, probably at least a month. And I put it under my pillow because it's supposed to help, clear out the EMFs and all of that stuff. And so I was just like, oh, let me try sleeping with it and see how that'll help my sleep. And like sometimes I'll fall asleep with my phone next to my bed, which I try not to do, but having this, like I don't feel that crazy energy and have those crazy dreams like I used to.
Kind of
So,
intercept.
anyways, I'm like, black tourmaline, something's there with dreams. Maybe it's a personal thing, but I invite any of you who have black tourmaline to maybe try sleeping with it just for my own like research. If you want to
Oh,
help me
that's
out and let me know,
fantastic.
let me know
I,
how that
I have
goes.
been needing to get black tourmaline for years. Every time
Yeah.
I think about it, I'm like, all right, I gotta go get it, and then I never do. Maybe this is
Yeah.
an opportunity
I'm
to
about
finally.
to, I'm making this piece into a necklace at some point. I'm an amateur with wiring. I'm going to do some other
Oh,
things,
that's
but yeah.
nice. I can't do
But this
animal.
is going to
I
be,
can't do
yeah,
wiring for shit.
I'm going to be wearing this soon, but yeah, it's going to take me a little bit, but I'm putting love into it. So, nonetheless, that's what I wanted to share. All right. So, any last words? That was my last word. What about
I
you?
just want to say, be kind. You never know what the next person is going through. We all need to come together as a community and be with each other, because things are just too hard by ourselves. Be kind, love thy neighbor. And yeah, I hope your dreams are incredible, and please, please share them. We have a forum for it. We can bring you on and talk about it all together. Dreams are so unique and beautiful to each other, and just please share
Yeah,
your.
especially if you're having those really intense dreams and or they're recurring and you just like don't really know what to make of them or they're giving you anxiety. 9 times out of 10, if you share them with someone else, especially someone who does dream work, you can get an alternate perspective that is probably going to be uplifting more than likely, or just give you another way to look at it.
Just
And
widens
that
your
helps
perspective.
so much, like I'm
So
saying from
much.
personal experience. Okay. So I'm just looking at the chat. They were talking about EMF. EMF is, or Jim was like EMS. No, EMF, F as in Frank. And I believe that's electromagnetic frequencies. Yes. Like just from like technology, computers, all the things, just like all the energy. Yes. It neutralizes, shields, and yeah, clears it essentially. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching. And please like the video if you like this and subscribe. And we'll talk to you guys next week. Take care. Bye.
Bye.